Hi everyone, I hope it's a good day for you and me. I am 𝖊𝖮𝖮𝖮, a third-year AB journalism student at the 𝖡𝒂𝒃 University. So, welcome to my first ever vlog content. So again, hi! Sana okay lang kayo dyan, and I hope you're happy, of course. And as I have mentioned earlier, and as you can see naman sa aking YouTube thumbnail, this is the first time na gagawa ko ng vlog, and I hope everything goes by according to my plan. But I know some of you who are watching right now will find this one interesting, especially those who love understanding history and learning what makes the present from what happened in the past, especially on the Philippine media. Alam niyo, there's always instances na kailangang bumalik ka sa past. Not to be stuck on it, but to appreciate everything that happens na nagkaroon ng malaking contribution sa present life mo, yung mga bagay na nangyari noon. And academically speaking and based on true-to-life experiences, this really happens, and I hope you can agree with me. So, ayun, before I start, meron ako ditong prepare na question. So, basically, yung gagawin ko is to answer the question based on my knowledge and everything na natutunan ko before. So, here's the first question. When was the very first broadcast in the Philippines? So, basically, the very first broadcast in the Philippines, probably in all of Asia, was a test broadcast in 1922. And according to some books and articles that I have read before, the person behind this test broadcast is a woman. Yes, babae po, and she is Mrs. Redgrave, who used a 5-watt transmitter from Nichols Field in Manila. Before it was called Camp Nichols, but now it was the 𝖵𝒂𝒻 Air Base, which is the headquarters ng Philippine Air Force. And there is something interesting behind Mrs. Redgrave, kasi her first name was unknown, and up until now, she remains anonymous. And kahit itry nyo pang mag-research about her, you will find out na hindi talaga nalaman or wala man lang record ng full name niya. Imagine of her contribution as the very first broadcast in the Philippines, then yung alam lang natin sa kanya is her family name, and there's so much Redgrave in the world. So, for the second question, in the early years of Philippine Broadcasting, who is the man behind establishing the couple of 50-watt radio stations? So, wala nang paligoy-ligoy pa. The man behind the 50-watt radio stations is Henry Herman, who established the 50-watt radio stations in Pasay and Manila in 1922. Isa siyang American and former soldier who came to the Philippines to fight in the Philippine-American War, and siya rin yung owner ng electrical supply company who put up the stations. And at first, yung pinaka-purpose lang nito is to broadcast music and to test the power of broadcasting in the Philippines. So, for the third question, in 1924, what was the first 2 letters assigned to all radio stations in the Philippines? So, basically, this is KZ. Why KZ? Kasi, in accordance siya sa law ng United States of America. So, during this time, under pa ng American colonization yung Pilipinas. So, meaning, ano man yung ipatupad ng Amerika, automatically, isasabatas rin siya sa Pilipinas. And knowing na yung founder ng KZ radio station, which is si Henry Herman, na isang American, then what will be our expectations? Of course, i-apply niya whatever his country mandated by law. So, additional information lang din, later on, nagkaroon ng 𝒕𝒂𝒃, which is a 100-watt station. Na napalitan yung 50-watt radio stations na na-establish ni Henry Herman before. So, for the fourth question, where is the first radio broadcasting in province? So, in 1929, the KZRC was opened in Cebu. Yes, sa Cebu po, yung kauna-unahang province na nag-introduce ng radio broadcasting sa Pilipinas. Pero later on, nag-close down lang din because of unsuccessful relay signals between Cebu and Manila. And after closing down ng station nila is nagkaroon ng comeback or pagbabalik na nangyari after a decade, and doon na nag-start na mag-on-air sila despite the guerrilla movement. So for the fifth question, what happened to the Philippine Broadcasting during the pre-martial law? So, before pa magkaroon ng martial law, dependent na yung mga Pilipino in accessing news and information sa radio. And during the time, mas nagiging active yung mga radio stations during election, since may mga political advertisement. And in early 1950s, there are these notable radio programs such as news commentaries na yung content nila is objectively analyzing politicians. And ang example nito is yung Kuro-Kuro ni Soc Rodrigo and Kuro-Kuro ni Jerry Espina. Then we had this Radio Patrol, which is ang pinaka-purpose nito during that time is to locate lost relatives. Like, parang through radio broadcasting, mas nagiging malawak yung audience. And ito na rin yung nag-serve as instrument ng mga Pilipino noon to access information and to relay information as well. And in 1963 naman, mas nag-focus muna sa radio rather than television, since kulang pa sa fund and may mga technical problem na na-encounter like sa signal. So, TV stations were forced to stop to operate. So, for the sixth question, what happened to the Philippine Broadcasting during the martial law? Basically, kung isa-isahin natin yung lahat ng mga nangyari during martial law sa Philippine media is napakarami talaga. But what really happened there is when Ferdinand Marcos imposed martial law on September 21, 1972, the first casualty was the country's free press and mass media. Since Marcos know the role of the media, sinigurado niya talagang mawawala lahat ng power and privilege na mayroon ang Philippine media the moment na ipatupad niya ang martial law. Bakit? Of course, the role of the media is to serve as the watchdog of the government. So, how can the government be free with their action kung nandyan ang media na nagbabalita sa kung anong ginagawa nila? So, during his term, there are so many media channels that were forced to close. And Marcos controlled people's access and the kind of information they got. He also didn't allow public criticism and ensured that he had the final say on what he claimed was the truth. Imagine how the media was not free at all, including all the Filipino people, in expressing themselves because of the treatment of the government during the martial law. So, for the last question, what happened to the Philippine Broadcasting during the post-martial law? So, after ng term ni Marcos, paunti-unti is naibalik na yung mga media establishments na napilitang magsara before and during the martial law. And this time, in 1980, the alternative press became the mainstream. Also, later on, there is an introduction of quality educational and children's program like yung Sineskwela, Hiraya Manawari, Bayani, and Mathinik. I know some of you naabutan ito. Ako kasi hindi. But napanood ko na lang din yung parang recorded program nila. So, kahit papano is naging familiar din ako. And during the post-martial law, we had the contemporary broadcasting, and the Philippine media became one of the most free in Asia since the government rarely censors the media, except lang dun sa mga information na hindi na kailangan pang i-disclose or isa-publiko. Unlike before na masyadong controlled ng government. At least during this time, kahit papano ay nagkaroon na ng tinatawag na malayang pamamahayag. So, that's end my Q&A on the history of the Philippine Broadcasting. I hope that you learned something as much as I have learned. Everything that happens on the Philippine media before has something to do with the current state of media that we have right now in the Philippines. And as a future journalist, understanding the history of it makes me learn from what happened on the past that I can surely apply on my future job and my responsibility in informing the public on the truth that they need. So, if you have reached this moment without skipping na hanggang ngayon nakikinig ka pa rin sa akin, thank you for your time. Wish me to pass all of my exams and my prelims requirements, and I am wishing the same for you too. So, thank you so much, and hopefully I can upload more videos soon, I guess. So, thank you. Bye-bye.